Let reality be your best beginning. Every garden will be invaded. Not to think so is naive. Here's the second phrase. All values must be defended. Social values, political values, friendship values, marriage values, family values, business values. Every garden must be tended all summer. If you don't develop this skill, you will never wind up with anything of value. Last is the fourth major lesson in life to learn. Learn how to reap in the fall without complaint. That's number 4. Take full responsibility for what happens to you. It is one of the highest forms of human maturity, accepting full responsibility. It's the day you know you have passed from childhood to adulthood, accepting full responsibility. And learn how to reap in the fall without apology. Without apology if you have done well, and without complaint if you have not. That's the best of human maturity. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm saying it's the best. Now, I used to have some problems in this area, way back in those early days. I used to have this list of reasons why I wasn't doing well. To explain, right? Otherwise, you're going to look bad. I used to have this funny list called Reasons for Not Looking Good. I really did. I used to blame the government. You can believe that or not. It was at the top of my list. I had a lecture second to none. The government. I blamed taxes. Look what you've got left after they take everything out. Taxes, that was on my list. I blamed prices. That's easy, right? You walk into a supermarket with $20 and come out with this little half bag of groceries. That was on my list. I blamed the weather. I blamed the traffic. I blamed my car. I blamed the manufacturers. I blamed my negative relatives. They were always putting me down. I blamed my cynical neighbors. They were just selfish, looking out for themselves. Wouldn't loan me any money. I blamed the community. I blamed the economy. Hey, that's a pretty good list for not doing well, isn't it? I thought it was a good list. I will never forget this one day. Mr. Schoaf was very kind, but he was also very blunt, which was helpful for me. If he hadn't been blunt, I would have missed some things. On this particular day, with a kind of question mark look on his face, he said, "Jim, just out of curiosity, tell me how come you haven't done well up until now?" Excellent question, right? Well, so I wouldn't look too bad, I decided to go through my list. How I ever had the nerve to do that, I don't know, but I did. I went through the whole list, the government, taxes, prices, everything. He was very patient, and let me go through it all. When I finished, he looked over my list very carefully and said, "Mr. Rohn, big problem with your list. You aren't on it." How brilliant, and how true. When I went to work for him a few months later, I learned very quickly to tear up my list of reasons for not looking good and threw it away. And then I got a fresh piece of paper, and I put one word on it: me. There's a Black Heritage spiritual that says, "It's not my mother nor my father, nor my brother nor my sister, but it's me, O Lord, standing in the need of prayer." See, I used to blame everything outside for my lack of progress, until I found the problem was inside. For a big share of my life, I kept looking for the answers to do well outside, and I found out the answers were inside. Success is not something you pursue. Success is something you become. You see, it's not what happens that determines the quality or the quantity of your life. It's not what happens. And the reason is because what happens to about everybody. The sun went down on all of us last night. A common event. And I found out the same things can happen to two different people, but one gets rich and the other stays poor. Why is that? It's because it's not what happens, but rather it's what you do about it. That is an important phrase for your written and mental notes. It's not what happens. It's what you do that makes the difference in how your life works out. What happens is about the same for everybody. It's what people do that makes the difference. Anything can happen, right? I've heard all of the stories. Hey, I've been one of the stories. We could all tell stories for days on end. Anything can happen. Have you heard of Murphy's Laws? Surely you have. Murph had these laws. One of the laws was, if anything can go wrong, it will. That's one of Murphy's laws. Anything can happen. I've fallen out of the sky so many times, once to the tune of a couple of million. Devastating. Took me a while to get over that one. Now, it wasn't all that much, but it was all I had. That's much, right? When it's all you've got. If you've got 3 and 2 go and you've got 1 left, you aren't looking that bad, but when it all goes. I'm sure you've had that kind of experience. Of course, a long time ago, when you ran out of money and got to 0, you were all through. Heck, now you can whistle right on by 0, right? They will bury you these days. But those are happenings. Everyone's got the same happenings. The big question is, what are you going to do about it? Someone says, yes, but you don't understand the disappointments I've had. Come on. Everyone has disappointments. Disappointments are not special gifts reserved for the poor. Everybody has them. The question is, what are you going to do about it? While we're talking about personal development and letting go of limitations, here are what I consider to be the biggest self-imposed limitations any man or woman has ever had to deal with. First, procrastination. Procrastination is particularly life-threatening because when we put something off, it doesn't seem, at the moment, to be all that important. At the end of the day, if you have let a few things slide, it doesn't seem like such a bad day. However, enough of those days piled up will make a disastrous year, and eventually, a disastrous life. Our inability to come to grips with a natural tendency to procrastinate will surely send us drifting in the wrong direction. Before you reach the final session of this program, you'll have left procrastination behind, if you're still troubled by it. You'll have discovered that it's simply too costly to put up with any longer. Besides, you'll be too excited about where you're going to postpone the activities taking you there. Self-imposed limitation number 2. Blame. All of us have blamed others for our troubles from time to time. In fact, the tendency to blame someone or something goes back a long way. When there were only 2 people on earth, it wasn't long before they started blaming. The man said, "It was the woman. She got me into this." And the woman blamed the serpent. Blame seems to be one of those negative tendencies that just comes naturally. The ego striving to defend itself. Remember the list I came up with to explain why I wasn't doing well? One of the items that was high on my list was prices. I told Mr. Schoaf that my problem was everything costs too much. However, he soon set me straight on that by saying, "Mr. Rohn, that is not the problem. Let me tell you the real problem. You can't afford it." It's not it. If you keep dealing in its, you will always be broke, unhappy, and disillusioned because you will never have enough. Don't deal in its. Deal in you. When I finally learned to change my thinking from it to me, I changed my whole life. What a life-changing experience to finally meet someone who doesn't hesitate to put it on you or on your tendency to indulge in blame or procrastination. That is indeed a banner day when you meet someone who has learned how to skillfully and carefully attack the same problem that has kept you from doing very well, or kept you beneath your potential, or kept you off balance as to your own self-worth. It is so easy to mistake appearances for reality, to confuse the symptom with the real cause. Along with blame comes the third negative tendency we want to eliminate: excuses. Guess how many excuses we have? 1 million. And in the course of a lifetime, we will probably use them all, unless somebody finally comes along and blows all those excuses apart to make us come face to face with the real reasons for our current dilemma. Until that time, we will probably use another 1 million excuses to prevent ourselves from having $1 million. Here's one of the major questions I'll pose to you during this program. What are you going to do starting today that will make a difference in how your life works out? Good question, right? What are you going to do? See, if you don't do something starting today that will make a difference, guess what? It's going to be the same. And you can guess what the next 5 years are going to be like. Just look at the last 5. The next 5 years will be like the last 5 unless you, Major Key, make all the changes. Now here's another key question. What can you do starting today that will make a difference? That's a good question. What can you do? What can you do with economic chaos? What can you do with massive disappointment when it's all gone wrong? What can you do when it won't work, when you've run out of money, when you don't feel well, and it's all gone sour? What can you do? Well, let me give you the broad answer first. Here's what you can do. You can do the most remarkable things, no matter what happens. Hey, people can do incredible things, unbelievable things. A man can do the most amazing things with the most impossible circumstances. A woman can do the most remarkable things with the most disastrous circumstances. Hey, I found out kids can do remarkable things. That is, if they have remarkable things to do. I also found out if they don't have remarkable things to do, there's no telling what they'll do. Now, here's why humans can do remarkable things. It's because they are remarkable. They are not dogs, animals, fish, birds, amoebas. Humans are different than any other creation. When a dog starts with weeds, he winds up with weeds, and the reason is because he's a dog. But that's not true with human beings. Human beings can turn weeds into gardens. That's one of the major differences being a human versus being a dog. Humans can turn nothing into something, pennies into fortune, disaster into success. And the reason they can do such remarkable things is because they are remarkable. So why not reach down inside of you and come up with some more of those remarkable human gifts? They're there waiting to be discovered and employed. And with those gifts, change anything for you that you wish to change. And I challenge you to do that because you can change. If you don't like how it is for you, change it. If it isn't enough, change it. If it doesn't suit you, change it. If it doesn't please you, change it. And I challenge you to do all that because you can change. See, you don't ever have to be the same after today, only by choice. If you don't like your present address, change it. You're not a tree. Now for the process of change, just a philosophical pronouncement won't do. It takes more than that. And it takes more than enthusiasm. I know we are hearing a lot about enthusiasm these days. We're still hearing the old cliche of the 30s, to be enthusiastic, you must act enthusiastic. But see, that won't help. I'm sorry. Hey, after you have leaped about, there are some things you've got to do, or it isn't going to change for you. You can get all excited about lifting 200 pounds until you get to the gym. Then you need a new excitement. And the new excitement is discipline. Discipline, the major step to human progress. If there is one thing to get excited about, this is it. Get excited about your ability to make yourself do the necessary things to get a desired result. That's true excitement, not just optimistic panic. True excitement. Hey, what could you do starting today that would make a big difference in your life? Answer, no telling. What will some people do starting today? That's what's disappointing. It's not what we can do that's in question. What we can do is fantastic. What we can do is unbelievable. What we can do, it's what we settle for that's disappointing. Remember, the major question to ask on the job is not, what are you getting? The major question to ask is, what are you becoming? What we become is what leads to all the good things. And the habits we form, habits of mind, attitude, and behavior, are a dominant part of what we are becoming. Now, I understand as well as anyone that forming new habits doesn't come easy. But new habits will come when we change. It is usually not in one cataclysmic explosion, but rather by changing small pieces and parts at a time. I think that's how most of us change. We just keep nudging ourselves in the right direction, forming one or two new habits at a time, little by little, until finally we've made the turn. And this is where the good life comes from, those personal changes. There's nothing you can do with the seasons, but there's everything you can do with yourself. Don't wish for the winters to change. Wish for your own attitudes, strength, and capabilities to change in order to handle the winters. Really making personal changes calls for 10% inspiration and 90% perspiration. Wishing we could change is a beginning, but now wish must be translated into activity, and inspiration and affirmation must lead to discipline. We can affirm that we are going to change, but we must now form new habits and develop new disciplines for the affirmation to come true. Make sure your activities are not going in the opposite direction of your affirmation. Make sure your daily thoughts and activities take you in the direction of your affirmation. Now, in the personal development quest, there are three major aspects of ourselves to improve. We can look at developing ourselves spiritually, physically, and mentally. With respect to our spiritual development, this may be a major or a minor issue for you depending on your values and your goals. I confess to being an amateur in this field, but I think it's very wise for you and me to look at the spiritual side of our lives and decide what growth we want to experience here. Come to your own decisions as to what it will take to nourish your spiritual nature. Next, let's look at physical development. The body and the mind work together and depend on each other, so they both need attention. There's a Bible phrase that says, treat your body like a temple. So just put it in your notes, body like temple. Not a bad suggestion. Treat your body like a temple, not a woodshed. Now, in taking care of the physical, we must learn to be conscious of ourselves, but not self-conscious. We need to be aware of our physical appearance, our physical well-being, but not to the point of being self-conscious. We need to be aware, we need to take care, but some people devote too much of their day to physical appearance. Physical appearance is going to have something to do with your future, your well-being, your income, so do spend some time on physical appearance. How we appear to other people does make a difference in terms of our acceptance and our ability to function and do well in the marketplace. In fact, there's another Bible phrase that says, take care of the outside for people and take care of the inside for God. People look on the outside, and God looks on the inside. Now, you might believe that people shouldn't judge you by physical appearance. Well, let me give you a clue. They do. Make sure you don't order your life based on shoulds and shouldn'ts. You'll always be confused, and you'll always have trouble. The best thing to base your life on is reality. What people really do. So since people generally judge by appearance, then that's probably one thing we want to take care of. That's just part of the game. Now, of course, when people get to know you, or if they've been around you any length of time at all, they're going to judge you by more than appearance. But sure enough, people at first are going to take a look. So taking care of yourself in personal appearance is a consideration. Now, physical development also includes your good health and your well-being. You've got to spend some time on that so that you feel good in the marketplace.